what's up? We're just outside Las Vegas, Nevada. It is a beautiful day. Today, I'm gonna show you how you can take fight scene camera techniques and apply that to any type of action, whether or not you're shooting car sequences, chase sequences, gunfights, or in this case, gun ranges. So it's gonna be sick. This is one of my best buddies in the world, Trevor Morgan. He's the man. He's gonna be helping me out today. He's also a fight coordinator and does this for a living. You've seen his work on big films like The Killer, as well as upcoming Here Comes the Flood and Sugar on Apple TV. He's also been in a ton of blockbusters you've definitely seen. Probably a little monster crawling around somewhere or something like that. But he's the man. He's gonna be helping me out with this. We're gonna make something super cool. And also, this is the first episode of a new series I'm gonna do called These Are My Friends, where I highlight people like Trevor and people that are in my life that do really rad stuff. We shoot guns together, we do jiu-jitsu together. He chokes me out on the daily. Sounds a little weird, but he does. I'm gonna show you 3 different really rad techniques that stack on top of each other, and by the end, we're gonna combine it all to make a really rad sequence. So let's get to it. Hey! Hey! All right, so the first thing that I want to say is that we are using live guns because we're at a gun range. So you shouldn't try this at home. He's never going to point his gun at me. Just so you know, don't do this yourself and get in front of your friends with guns unless they're fake airsoft guns or whatever. Just disclosure. So as far as techniques go, if you want to make things look super dynamic, the name of the game is obviously camera motion. But it's not just any camera motion to get the biggest bang for your buck. We're gonna be talking about what's called a counter. Basically, what a counter is where you're moving the camera in opposition to another object that's moving toward the camera, or just in an opposite direction. Whatever it is, the camera's moving opposite of the motion that's happening. It basically doubles the speed of what's going on in the frame, and it makes things look super dynamic and energetic. So if Trevor has his hands up like he's shooting his gun, in this case I'd be off axis here, and I was to move the camera and there was no counter happening, it would just be moving toward him, right? Or on the other end of that, if he were to be moving toward me and I wasn't moving, go ahead, then I'm static. There's no camera movement. A counter is basically where we're opposing each other. So it looks like this. The other way that we could do that, if we were on a tracking shot and he were to be moving forward and I were moving against him, that is also a different type of counter. So now that you know what a counter is, let's look at how different shot styles affect energy and intensity. So this is a static shot. Static shots are fine to use, and if you're stuck doing static shots, having your subject moving is how you help keep that energy alive. In this shot, we're pulling back, and this is really good when we want to stay with a character. If they're the hero, we want to show them entering a room, even if it's actiony, we can just track with them. This can be called a walk and talk. If you're walking, in this case, we're just staying with the character as he's running forward. And then this is the counter. This is what makes things look super dynamic. We can push past for a quick shot for good energy, or we can combine a counter for energy and then orbit or hinge around to stay with our character and keep it all alive. All right, so counters, that was sick. Pretty cool cinematic technique. The next thing we're gonna talk about is integrating certain styles of POV into these action sequences. So for this, I'm gonna experiment a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't used these tools too much before for this type of stuff, but I'm gonna be using this little Osmo Nano. We're gonna try to attach that to Trevor's gun so we can get some cool, different POV style shots. We're gonna do one where it's looking at him so we can really see like his face, and in the sequence it'd be like, we can see the intensity of how he's like receiving the environment that he's in, if this were like a gunfight or something like that. And then we'll do another one where we try to attach it like looking down the rifle where his weapon is pointed, which would be really cool. Either way, this is gonna be a really cool way to kind of elevate things and kind of put you in this action environment that we're making as we go along. Neato. 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 All right, so last but not least, this is another cool technique. We've been using it this entire video, and that is speed ramps. So a lot of the things that we've been shooting, actually pretty much all of the things that we've been shooting has been 120 frames per second, slow motion, high frame rate stuff. Since a normal cinematic frame rate for movies is 24 frames per second or 23,976 if we're trying to be precise, 120 frames per second means that we're shooting 5 times the amount of frames, which means playing back in slow motion will make this 5 times slower than real time. What that allows us to do is obviously capture slow motion and then ramp that up to full speed, or we can just cut back and forth between full speed and make it super impacty.
Impacty.
Make it super impactful and frenetic and actiony, which is really cool. Something to keep in mind though is whenever you do ramp up to something like 120 frames per second, you want to make sure that you're doubling your shutter speed. So in this case, we're going to be 1/240th of a second for our shutter speed. That just makes sure the motion blur stays cinematic and looks how it should. You always just want to duplicate your shutter speed according to your frame rate. If you do speed up to 24 frames per second after you shot slow motion, your footage is still going to have that 240 shutters baked in, which is going to look a little weird in a narrative context, but in an action context, it can look sick and makes it look kind of faster and more punchy and a little more frenetic. But that's just something to keep in mind as you do this. If you're going to be switching back and forth between storytelling beats where you have dialogue and things, you probably want to back off the frame rate, go back to a 1/48 shutter speed at 24 frames per second. That's a lot of technical info, but just so you know, full disclosure, know your frame rates. All right, so we got cool counters, we've got immersive POV shots, and we've got speed ramps to make things intense and highlight certain key moments. Let's see what that all looks like if we combine it to make something sick. Fun. That was cool. He crushed it. That was sick. That was a super cinematic, cool action sequence. So basically, the moral of the story here is that action principles will apply regardless of whether or not you're shooting fight scenes, you're shooting car chases, or in this case, you're shooting gun range, cool sports stuff, fishing, bowling, whatever you do, it would be cool. You can apply these techniques to anything. And I say fight scene filmmaking techniques, they're not native to fight scenes. That's just what I've been shooting for over a decade and what we've both been working on forever. So when I say fight techniques, fight camera techniques, I just mean dynamic, cool, cinematic action. Cinematic action.
Yeah.
Cinematic action. I'm glitching out right now. And of course, you can use these techniques for your fight scenes. So that's it for this one. This is the first episode of These Are My Friends. This is Trevor Morgan. He's the man. See you guys next time.
So, what?
Yeah,
that's great.